Welcome again to this tutorial where we're going to learn about 5 CSS utility classes. And to begin with, just going to copy this, paste it, and name this. This is tutorial number 18, utilities, CSS utilities. Then be doing a container class here. And the end we say end of coding. Example, go to a previous tutorial and copy all this, close it, and just paste it here. This is not part of the tutorial, but I'm just doing it for housekeeping purposes. And here is CSS utilities. So the first utility class we're going to learn is how to truncate text. So text truncation. And to do that, I'm just going to have a simple row, because that's the syntax. You have a container here. The next one is going to be a row. Inside the row, I'm going to have a column, probably of 6. Okay. And inside this thing, I'm going to have some lorem ipsum text. Not so much, because I want to have it controlled like that. If I save this and go, you see, this is how it's going to look like. Now, to truncate some text, you just do text hyphen truncate. Truncate. Boom. If you do that and you actually go to a smaller one, let me see how this is going to be affected, because the text truncate class is not working. So I found out what the issue is. So I missed a T here. If I save it and go back to the browser, that's it. This is how text truncation works. If you continue adding the width of the browser, it keeps adding as well. But that's how text truncation works. The next one we are going to learn is how to use a stretch link, and I'm going to our cards class here and just use the one with an image. Card title, card groups, where is basic card with an image. Let me see where that ends. Okay, I'm going to copy this and just use it as CSS utilities. I'm doing that to save on time. Basic card with an image. If I save this, there's nothing special about it apart from it being like this. 5. Okay, it's well distanced from the other one. And I'm going to have probably in the footer, or just below the card text, I'm going to have a link here just before we close, or the card text, or just below the card text, actually, not before we close. Here I'm going to have a link, of course, going somewhere, and this is a stretch link. It can be any text. I'm just going to show you what the class is. So if I've not applied any text here, I mean any class is going to appear like this. If I apply the Bootstrap class of stretched link, stretched hyphen link, save it. This, let me, it's a stretched link. It's going to always appear with this, but it's good to also mention that not much of a change will be shown in case you do that if you don't apply the button classes, because we want it to appear like a button. So I'm going to do BTL danger. Okay. So that's how a button appears. If it's a stretch link, if you did apply, it's going to show you dot dot dot. But if you use it here the way it's supposed to be used, then it's going to show you the full item of the link itself. Its usage is quite debatable. but it's good to keep in mind that you can actually keep using the stretch link class. Okay. Next we are going to speak about the visible and visible classes, and the way to do it is just give you an example, and this is what we call visibility classes. Visibility classes, the first one being I'll just have a paragraph that says, which one should we start with? Visible text. I don't know why you would want your text to be visible and then apply a class of visible, but so if you want it to be visible, you do that. You apply a class of visible. There's no need for capital. I'm going to do that, and it's still going to be visible. It's not going to change a lot, but watch what happens when I copy this and make it invisible. Invincible. See, it's there. It's not showing, and trying to understand why this is the case, or this was replaced by dnone. It's good to see what has happened, and it turns out we just needed to restart the server. So this is in invisible text, otherwise it's not showing here. Invisible, and when this happens, sometimes it's just visibility classes in Bootstrap 5, and I'm not going to edit this one out because I want you to understand it happens in Bootstrap. So if you want to affect the layout, visibility class, visible or invisible as needed. So visible class applies this, invisible class applies it. So you see, you can also apply the same with so set the visibility of elements with the visibility of the utility. Do not modify display value at all, and do not affect layout. Take up space in the page. Okay, so to actually affect this, they're saying we need to affect the visibility as needed, and we will have to actually apply these classes too. So if I want this text to disappear, I'll just copy this instead of typing. So I want this invisible text to disappear, so I'll just say invisible. It's not, I see, it's a spelling error. If I save, go back, it has disappeared. So no need to give this. This is just Bootstrap explaining what will happen if you apply these classes. So you can always go to the Bootstrap documentation and get further explanation in case you pass through problems. That's why I'm not going to edit out that part where we were not able to figure out what is happening here. So if I replicate this, you will see this visible text is still going to appear, you see, but the space the invisible text has taken is not going to be taken away. It's not like dnone that we learned. Let me show you. If we applied here dnone, see, the space is gone because these two lines of text are close to each other. But if we take it back to invisible, see, the space is still maintained because that element is just there. It's just that visibility has been hidden. With that, we are ready to head to the next item to learn, which is floats. And to have something floating to the right, let me say it's a paragraph and you want it to float to the right, maybe say float left, float right, this one low floating, and then we add another one that says sorry about that, and add another one that says float or medium screens only. So to do that, we are going to apply a class of float, but it needs a context like float left, where that's a float start, float on the right, that's a float end. If you don't have any float, you're just going to say float null, which is not float at all. It's like telling the browser no floating item at all. If I save this, go the browser, you see float left is going to float there. Float is like removing the box item and it's going to float in the air, but within that element, HTML element, in this case it's the paragraph inside the div item, the container where it is. Okay, so that's float left. If you want to push something to the further right, you just float right. If you don't want any floating, you say no floating. Okay, if I want to only float on medium screens, I can actually put a context to it. I just say float md, and where I want it to float, I'll say end, because right now it's on the start. So if I save it, see, since I'm on a medium screen, let's inspect. If I go to large screens, see, from medium screens all the way up is floating on the end. If I move to smaller screens, you see, it's floating on the left. And that's how you put in the context to decide where it's going to start floating from. And that's it on CSS utility. See you in the next tutorial where I'll be speaking about drop downs. See you then. Bye bye.